What up, say?
With all of the tariff fatigue, I know that's real, but a bit of lighthearted humour from the Chinese. I don't know if you saw the AI-generated videos they'd done of Americans after the tariffs, like in sweatshops, like making Teslas and Nikes. Yes. These fat guys sweating.
Yeah, with like the Maccas and the Coke, and he's trying to make a product. Very good by the Chinese. Sam Altman, I just follow him and I find out like what's going on, and then I have to upgrade. You update the app in the App Store or whatever, and then so now it's remembering every conversation I've ever had with it, not just the top 10 points of our thing. And then now to me, it's like double its usefulness. I asked it like, now you know everything about me. Tell me my blind spots as a leader, and it was brutal. Like, I don't need the June reviews feedback, the 360 feedback from my staff, because this thing just nailed me to a T.
You can tell it to be nice, Scotty. That's the good thing about art. You can say, deliver this to me like I'm a friend, man.
Katy Perry went on a 10-minute space ride 48 hours ago, and when she got home, she kissed the dirt and said, I'm just so happy to be home. And I had that sort of same experience when I got back to Melbourne. Also how out of touch she was when she said, there was a quote, she said something like, this is an experience that everyone should try. And I think Bezos is going to roll it out for like $500,000 a ticket. So that was a ripping meme. I think that's going to get a lot.
Welcome to Built to Scale, hosted by myself, Scott Wilcox from WBuild, where we craft some of the world's finest homes. And Matt Parrott from BuildPass, he's on a mission to build the world's smartest operating system for construction sites. We're two Aussie founders with global ambitions in business, technology, AI, and robotics. Every week, we're going to distill a broad set of intelligent insights into founder-driven takes that elevate your edge. Listen in to get our Aussie lens on the global playing field for anyone keen to stay ahead. Or in short, for those who refuse to be left behind.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome Maddie. Welcome to Built to Scale, episode 6. We are finally live. Other people now know about the show. Great to see you.
Lovely to see you too, Scotty.
Where do I find you in the world at the moment?
I am on the other side. We've switched positions since our where you were over in the US. So I'm in Austin, Texas. This is where our team is based over here. So visiting them, and it's lovely, beautiful weather. Bit warmer than Melbourne, so all is well.
Excellent.
How's your week been?
Mate, really good. I'm back in Melbourne, and which has been fantastic. Sunny Melbourne. It's like 30 degrees here, which is sort of weird coming around from the US and thinking I'm coming back to cold Melbourne. But for me, mate, this week, the highlight of this week, I think it's been a great week for memes. And I know that's not the Built to Scale normal rundown, but because I've experienced the memes, I've seen the memes of the, what's going on in the world, and then I've been able to apply them to myself straight away. So one of them, I don't know if anyone's seen, but Katy Perry went on a 10-minute space ride 48 hours ago. And when she got home, she kissed the dirt and said, I'm just so happy to be home. And I had that sort of same experience when I got back to Melbourne. Also how out of touch she was when she said, there was a quote, she said something like, this is an experience that everyone should try. And I think Bezos is going to roll it out for like $500,000 a ticket. So that was a ripping meme. I think that's going to get a lot. And I felt that way when I got back I actually felt it when I got back to my desk in my office. Like,
did you kiss it?
Katy Perry. I didn't kiss it, but it just made me think of it. And the other one was Rory McIlroy has just won the Masters, and for like 5 minutes, like it was probably the best sporting, I suppose, photography / camera work of all time. But they basically just had him in like 4K crying for 5 straight minutes with everyone clapping him all the way back after the Masters. And it was sort of almost how I felt when we finally released episode 4 live but Built to Scale. It was just like finally, my mum sent me a thing saying, I'm so proud of you, well done. And I thought, well, I've been doing it for about 2 months. So
You've been telling
Yeah.
everyone it was coming live next week. Next week, I promised. They were probably thinking you were clinically insane.
Well, it was because it was the Rory McIlroy thing, Rory McIlroy thing. He's been waiting 10 years to win the Masters. Everyone's like, he's never going to do it. And all my mates are going, can you stop bullshitting us? Like, are you actually doing something? Like, you just keep talking about it. So anyway, we're live.
And then there was also, with all of the tariff fatigue, I know that's real, but a bit of lighthearted humor from the Chinese. I don't know if you saw the AI generated videos they'd done of Americans after the tariffs, like in sweatshops, like making Teslas and Nikes. There's these fat guys sweating.
Yeah, with like the Maccas and the Coke, and he's trying to make a product. Very good by the Chinese.
They really got him there. I need to be careful. I'm trying to launch my business in the US, so I'm gonna stop there. But it was quite funny.
Very good. So tell me, you're in Austin. What's happening over there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of eating, I had a Chick-fil-A burger for lunch today, so I'm still feeling the effects of that. But man, Chick-fil-A was so good. I'm going to go on a little rant here. I promise everyone. We'll get into some AI news and things like that soon. But Chick-fil-A, for those who don't know, it's like a KFC, but the food is really fresh. And I actually have a bit of an insight into the business because one of our staff over here worked there for 8 years, helping to launch the Chick-fil-A stores. So he was giving me all these crazy stats about it. But essentially, very Christian ownership. So all of the staff are super polite. They get trained very well. They don't open on Sundays because of their Christianity, and they make sure that they are not open on Sundays. But the quality of the ingredients is amazing. They hand make everything on site on the day. The chicken is brined in pickle juice. It's hand breaded. The lemonade, they have someone there literally paid from early in the morning just to hand squeeze lemon for the lemonade. And it really comes through. It's so packed. It's like a McDonald's in the sense that it's so busy and so refined in the process, but the food's so much fresher. And it really just shows. And I think when we were talking about the Golden State Warriors last week and that top-down culture of excellence everywhere, and learning about how Chick-fil-A operates, it's the same thing. It's this culture of delivering really great food, being really nice, having that shared ethos and that shared vision. And just to see that at scale and working and understanding how profitable each of these restaurants are is crazy. Like if you own one of these Chick-fil-A's, you're making, I think it's over $2 million US profit a year. So it's just wild to see. And anyway, that's how I've turned my lunch into a little bit of a rant. But you can tell I don't have much more Austin news because I've just got here. But I thought I'd share that while we're on the topic of
it's actually good it's a good one for restaurants and also scaling something that seems unscalable. So there's most people, like I imagine on a lot of VCs as well, tell people like, oh, it's you're too in the weeds, or that's not scalable. I go deep on Peter Thiel videos from like the last 15 years. And at the start of every one, when he's talking, he's like, everyone should be only trying to build a monopoly. Like the last thing you should do is be like building a restaurant, don't open a restaurant, you're going to be competing in this space. And I really like that something like that has worked, that someone with care in a niche that looks like, I got to compete with McDonald's. Like, how do you compete with McDonald's? And also actually keep all that charm and that quality and the things that made them unique, and then scale that. That's it's inspirational to even me in what we're doing, and just think like, who can scale a bloody construction company? It's the hardest thing of all time. But if you have some core mission values and stuff, and you get everyone pushing in the same direction, you can scale basically anything.
Yeah, exactly. And the Peter Thiel one is interesting because his whole thing is he wants to create businesses that are, going to dominate the globe. And maybe to do that, you need to be a monopoly, but you can still be a very, very successful business just by changing some things. I don't know if this guy's popped up in your feed at all, but the founder of Culture Kings, I think since he sold that, he's probably just looking for things to do, but he produces some good content. Yes. And he's
noisy boy.
He's noisy, yes. Yeah. But the most recent one that I saw from him was this new store that's popped off, and all they do is they serve chips in the style of Yoshi So you go in there, you get some hot chips, you put your toppings on it. It looks like a Yoshi store. And for those who haven't been to Yoshi, it's a frozen yogurt store that's very successful. And he was saying that all they did is they took the Yoshi model, they changed 1%, said, we're not going to do frozen yogurt, we're going to do chips, and it blew up. So I totally agree. If you do things really well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just got to do things well.
100%. I think when I had my short course at Stanford, one of the head of innovation, so the marketing professor there, who, had some amazing students, and he said some of the best innovation is actually taking an existing idea and changing one tiny thing. So he was like, Snapchat is Instagram for 7 seconds. I don't know the actual seconds. I'm not on Snapchat, but it was just shortening it, or TikTok, it's just shortening it. It's the same app with less, and somehow it ends up more successful. So yeah, he really said that some of the major innovations you'll see is sometimes deleting something or changing 1%, and then suddenly that goes viral.
And knowing where to innovate, this is one of the things I discovered the hard way. Just to be an innovative business doesn't mean you have to innovate on everything. So you don't need to reinvent the sales process or pricing or marketing if you're doing something innovative elsewhere. So very aligned there. Speaking of innovation, you would have seen that Figma is suing Lovable.dev for using the tagline dev mode. So reminder, what Lovable is, it's a website that you can generate other websites by putting in a prompt. And it's really, really good. This is the one that I used to build the Built to Scale website while I was on a plane on the mobile. So I know firsthand how good it is. And Figma, another software company that does design, is getting a little bit scared by them, because what Lovable is basically saying is you don't need design anymore. You just need to tell us what you want and we'll build the website for you. So understandably, they're a little bit shook. And I think it is interesting to see how people resort to litigious behavior when they're a little bit shaken. And you can kind of feel that that's happening with Figma. But I thought that was a pretty interesting one to try and sue someone over. It's not even used much in their marketing, like dev mode, saying you can't use that, back off.
And have you got any experiences where anything like that's happened at BuildPass?
Funnily enough, I do. And I haven't really talked about this publicly, so here we go. But we actually got a cease and desist from a competitor when we launched our new logo, which is this one right here. And it was funny. The logo, they're different. We launched it a few weeks after theirs, and just like funny timing that they happened to rebrand, and we've been working on a rebrand for many months. And the logos, you could look at them, you go, yeah, they're somewhat similar. We proved that they're different enough after they issued their cease and desist, and we lawyered up and told them to go away. But I do find it's really funny that if you weren't scared of a competitor, if you weren't worried about them and you weren't worried about your own business, would you really take the time to do that? So anyway, that's my experience in having it's happened to actually not to that extent, but we have had a few letters from competitors over our time, just for things that you go, would you really spend the time to do that if you weren't a little bit concerned around your own business? So I think the relationship between becoming litigious and starting to get concerned about your own growth and what your own backyard looks like is quite strong, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you see it with Elon constantly suing OpenAI. It's because he's worried about what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? He's in direct competition with them. He can say it's all about the charity and how they started it and all that kind of stuff, but that's not, and that he cares about OpenAI for humanity and stuff. It's not. They're building out a moat. They're a couple of years ahead. They're a really successful business. And he's going hard at them, to try and buy some time to catch up and distract them. Personally, from scaling a business in construction, especially someone who's not a carpenter, mine was more never litigious, but it was always just rumors around Melbourne and about, how they don't know what they're doing. They're this, they're that, this, because you'd go into a tender environment and beat them every time, one after the other. And all the incumbents, it just becomes part of their story to talk down the person or the business. It's starting to take over with some new ideas and a new approach. We still deal with it today. We're still in a market where, people aren't going in the same direction we are. And instead of focusing in, I think it's all to do with these businesses that once they're not growing how they want, they start to sort of almost look inwards, get defensive, and then start looking at ways of like just holding everyone else back. And I think now is definitely not the time for it. Like Jack Dorsey posted on X the other day, something like delete IP law, all IP law, delete it, because how can you hold on to say something's your own idea when an AI can create it in 5 minutes? And then the other side of Elon, which is kind of ironic, is he always says like patents are for cowards. You know what I mean? Like if you're innovating, you don't really care what others are doing.
Yep.
You're just full steam ahead in your own direction. Yeah.
Yeah. And that is like the biggest thing with startup, but I would say with established businesses as well. An idea is worth basically nothing. Like, yes, there are good ideas and there are bad ideas. Some things should not be worked on. Some things should be worked on. But that's about it. From there, 99% is how can you actually execute on that? Can you pull the team together? Can you rally people around a vision? Can you do things that other people aren't doing? And that is where Elon shines. So it doesn't surprise me that he goes, you know what, I don't need a patent for any of this. If you can do it as good as me, then good luck to you, because by the time you've worked on what I'm doing, I'm going to be on the next thing and the next thing. And that's what takes us forward as a society. So I think I would tend to agree that patents and IP law, they tend to be more of a protecting yourself legally, and are they actually good for the economy, for the universe? I don't know.
Well, you've now that you've been on another flight as well to Austin, does that mean have we got another website for Built to Scale, or have you upgraded ours, or have you? Did you have Wi-Fi on your plane?
No, I was Qantas, and because I had signed up for Qantas pre the innovation bin last week. You're telling me about that, and you're right, no Wi-Fi, complete disaster. Although I will say, this hasn't worked before, but I did the bid for an upgrade with points, and it worked. So was up the front, able to lie down. The food was good. So everything else was actually really good, but the lack of Wi-Fi, yeah, they're still in the bin for that. But mate,
the points is a nice upgrade.
Yeah. I've used Lovable again. I was at dinner with my team last night, actually, and we're having some wines, and I've had this idea for a wine app. I'm not going to pitch it here. I won't bore you with the pitch, or maybe we can do it at the end if you really want it. I think it's a good pitch, but the team that was so about it, I was like, okay, that's great. We came up with a name for it. It's called Super Snob, because it helps you get more snobby with your wine if you don't know how to describe what wine you do. So I'm half doing the pitch, but I'll do a proper one later. But anyway, so at dinner, I just got out my phone, went onto Lovable, put a prompt in, built the website for what it's going to do, bought the domain, linked it up, and you can now go to supersnob.com and it's alive. So that was done at dinner.
We finally have ads on the show. We have ads.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think it's really emblematic of where we are and how fast things are moving. And yeah, but so over here in Austin, having a good time. What about anything else international, Scotty? Have you got anything else you're seeing in the news?
Well, look, I'm not going to say the word tariff, so we'll skip it, because it's been said to. Everyone's got tariff fatigue.
Bleep it out.
In terms of, I just want to talk about the US and China in general, and moats. Everyone talks about company moats, and what they are is, what have you got at your core that other people can't replicate, and just copy you and ruin your business straight away. And the US has had this like innovation moat, technology moat, I think, for a long time. And China's had a manufacturing moat. And the US and China are now fighting so hard. They're basically not dealing with each other. Like Nvidia's having to move and can't sell them certain chips. And China's now stopped buying Boeing planes, and it's getting pretty bad. At the moment, Australia's sort of hanging out of it, which is good. I think we've got a 10% tariff for the US, but nothing sort of is happening to us commercially yet, I don't think. But I think one of the main things is just this changing world is, how are the US going to keep their moat if they don't leverage, China's, the great things about China that they've done to date to get to where they are now. So US has always been like, Apple's design happens in the US, but they manufacture in China, and we all get an iPhone for, $1,000. And I think historically in China, we've had an arbitrage for the last 20 years on their cheap labor. But I think now the arbitrage is actually on their cheap energy, their infrastructure, their automation, and their work ethic. So they've in the background almost solved for what happens when all labor is cheap. So it's a really interesting way. I just feel like it's just popped up. It's like, maybe it's only just occurred to me, but it was always like all these luxury brands you're seeing, like the European, like the $30,000 bag is actually potentially being made in China, or parts of it in China. That this whole world has had this enormous arbitrage on Chinese labor. And if you go to war with them, they're going to expose that. But I just wonder if they don't calm this down. I almost back China more in terms of they have the cheap energy and the abundance. And if you're selling something where it's cost prohibitive, do you turn your attention to them?
Yeah, and it's not just the cheap labor. I saw a video from Tim Cook. I don't know when he posted this, if it was recently or as a while ago, but it came up on the concept of the T word. And he was saying, we don't manufacture in China because it's cheap. We manufacture in China because of the density of the skill set they have to do really high quality and complex things. If you try and find the engineers you need to build the chips and all of the complex manufacturing and the fine components that they need, you only have a handful of people who can do that in China, in the US. But you go to China and you just have a crazy density of these people. So it's actually, the quality is better too. And my father-in-law, who he was born in China, he always says now, why would you buy any real brands? Why would you not just get a fake knockoff from China? Because they're being made in the same factory. Just because they haven't been, it's been made by the same people, same quality, just doesn't have the brand next to it, which I thought was quite funny. And again, I don't want to get in trouble for saying that. But I think you're right that the China is looking like a very scary competitor. They're very self-sufficient. They're going to do trade with everyone else. And it just doesn't look like it's going in the right direction for the US.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm going to head over in the next couple of months and sort of report back from what I find there. But in terms of, it's similar. When I talk to clients about, some of the Australian labor prices now for producing ornate things that we do throughout a luxury home, we're now being forced into markets like China. And I'm reminding clients, if I go there, I'm not going to bring back something bad and put it in your house. Do you know what I mean? They've got amazing metal workers over there. They've got amazing fabrication. They've got automation. It's not going there to get something cheap from some local market. You're going to you're going to the world's engine room. And what you're just not doing is paying a bunch of wholesalers and distributors and people to ship it around the world and eventually come to you with a shiny new logo on it. You're just going direct to the source. Sort of like going to like an open source LLM for you guys, and not charging every one of your customers another ChatGPT subscription on top of your fees. It's like, we'll just go to the open source one. And that's what I feel like they almost are over there.
I agree. And you've segued nicely. We don't have to switch gears. We can segue beautifully into LLMs. And let's kick off with AI news, because it has been a very big week. So should we start off with Google, the Google Summit? Did you watch it? Have you seen it?
Yeah, I mean, well, what did you get out of it? I got a lot, but I'm really interested to see what you saw. Yeah,
one of the big ones for me is this new protocol called the A2A, or the agent to agent protocol. And let's go on one of Matt's nerdy deep dives for a second. I know, but I'll try and keep it somewhat high level. We had a lot of talk over the last month on something called MCP. We've done so many episodes of the pod that we haven't released. I can't remember if I talked about it or not. But MCP is the Model Context Protocol. And what that has allowed us to do as developers is say, I now have a way of, when I'm creating an app, of my AI
can go and talk to all of these other services. So I can just go and interface with Dropbox and get some stuff from there. I can then go and interface with my email as well. And so the AI becomes infinitely more powerful because of this new protocol. Its way of talking to other services and connecting into them. What we've got here from Google is a different protocol. They're getting confused, but they're actually different things. A2A or agent to agent is about, okay, if I've built an agent, how can I actually go and talk to another agent, whether that's something that someone else has built, whether I've built two of them, and it's how they talk together to get the job done. So we've talked a lot about Manus, Manus.im, which is kind of like the ChatGPT that will do a lot of things for you behind the scenes. It truly is the agent experience of using an LLM. Well, this is taking that a step further. Manus itself is an agent, but imagine if Manus could go and talk to Google's agent and everyone else's agent. And we really are taking a step forward into the agentic workforce. When we talked last week about thinking about your business as having software agents in it, and the org structure of how you design a business is no longer just thinking about the humans, but it's thinking about where do the agents come in? How can the humans use agents? And this is really facilitating that. It's saying, okay, you've got this org structure of agents within your business, but how are they actually going to talk together? And this is it's providing what I would call the guardrails or the foundations for them to talk to each other. Google isn't out there providing the service to do that. They're saying, we want this to happen. This is how it should happen. This is the protocol. Just like the internet is an open protocol for how computers can talk together over the internet, the agent-to-agent protocol is the same thing. There's a really good post on X that explains this visually, and we can put that up for those who are watching, how this looks in a diagram, and we'll link to it as well. But I think for me, them launching that is actually a really big step forward, and it's showing that they are committed to the future of AGI and the agentic workforce. They're not just trying to do their own thing. Well, they are trying to do their own thing as well, but they're also contributing to what this looks like for humanity. So that was my biggest thing that I got out of it.
Yeah, it probably flows nicely into, I mean, they had a really good mix of back-end developer type announcements, but then a lot of like retail announcements where this is now going to affect the everyday person in their workflow, especially white collar. Just bolting now Gemini into the whole workflow, the Google ecosystem. And I think, I remember at the start of this revolution a couple of years ago, it was like, you've got to pick Microsoft or Google, which way you're going, because you've got OneDrive and you've got Google Drive, and who's going to, where are you going? Because it's all about where you're storing your data and then how do you leverage that data with an LLM. But Google, I feel, took the opposite road to Microsoft, and it seems like the Google way, which is let's release when we've got something that's going to work and basically stay silent until that point. And Microsoft went out with like Copilot 2 years ago, like we've released Copilot and released fancy videos. Then you went to use it and it was useless across like 90% of the functions.
And to remember that everyone was writing Google off. It was probably 6 months ago when ChatGPT came out and like, where's Google? They don't have anything. They're screwed. This is going to be the decline of Google. But I think this, the smart money out there, because Google's share price didn't really dip much, knows that they're working on this. Google would have been sitting there saying, we have got all the tech for this, just you wait. And they are proving that they can deliver.
Yeah. And they've got, you forget they're involved in everything. They own YouTube. So they've got the best data source, the video data source on the planet to train whatever they want to train. I know the rest of the internet's scraping YouTube as well, but they've got the core content there. They've got the worksheets. They've got Gmail. They've got search. They've got the quantum computing. They just announced their new chip, Ironwood, which is, up there with NVIDIA in terms of reasoning chips. So they're going vertically integrated. They're deep in quantum computing. So I just think in general, I really like what they're doing. A couple of their tools that I'm using lately, I've been using for a while, but they just upgraded it recently, was Notebook LM, which for anyone, I can't imagine doing university with that now, how good it is. But basically it's plugged into Gemini. It's got deep research. You can actually even ask it what topics you should be researching, and then it will go and get you 10 different, sources, from books or videos or whatever. And then it'll summarize it for you. put it into a summary, then it can put it into something like a mind map, which we're going to have for all of our episodes here, where if someone doesn't want to listen to something, it really shows you how a person thinks and what their train of thought was. And then you can just like drop down the subject that you actually want to go deeper on. But then from there, it'll create a podcast for you to digest something that was, you know, like a legal document or a subject at school, or, you know, from our point of view, a specification on a project that's like 200 pages long. Just start a podcast of it and go for a run. And then, but now it's interactive. They've got you can interact with the podcast host. So you're now in the podcast. So you've got this podcast of a man and a woman who are telling you about a document. And then you start talking to them. So you're not typing prompt into ChatGPT. You're not talking to them about this document. And they're saying, don't miss page 37 because it's got all that information there for you. And I just think, it's
incredible.
You forget what they own and just the breadth and the ecosystem they're creating. And I just have huge respect for everything they're doing.
And you're telling me I don't have to show up next week? We can just put a prompt and a document into what we want to talk about. Right.
What I did too was I dropped our podcast in, and then they made a podcast about our podcast, and I didn't listen to it. I'm not that egoic, but I just think that's so meta. It's like, if you don't want to listen to us, we'll create like a little 10-minute notebook LM version and just all the best bits without having to listen to you and I in our accents.
Yeah, but it all jokes aside, it is incredible. It's a new way of interacting and learning as well. Like you said, imagine being at university, pumping a whole, research paper into that. And like you said, going for a run or a walk and learning by listening to a podcast on it and interacting with it. Like, that could be some people's best way to learn. So it really is incredible, the technology.
Yeah, 100%. And a couple of other things. I mean, we could go on forever about the conferences. I think these conferences are so cool. Like, if you can find a channel or something that you follow that will summarize it for you. I think there's one called CNET or TechNet. They'll do like all the big announcements within 10 to 15 minutes. So then you can sort of go down your own rabbit hole and what you're interested in. One of the big ones was Firebase Studio, which is a bit out of my league, but it sounds like it's a challenge to Replit in terms of, being able to build stuff really quickly. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, basically it's one of those low or no code platforms for building apps. They give you the ecosystem. They are just getting into that competitive space. Like I mentioned before, there's Lovable, who builds apps. You've got tools like Cursor, which is helping you to do the vibe coding. So it's really stepping into that space. It's going to get really competitive. Microsoft has now stepped into that space as well. I haven't used Firebase Studio myself. Some people seem to be loving it online. Some people say it's terrible. You always get that. You get opposite ends. You don't really get the truth on X. But it certainly feels like, based on what Google is doing, it's going to be a very capable system, and non-developers will be able to go in and build real living software by just talking to it, which is crazy.
Yeah, it sort of brings up something as well we were talking about last week with the secondary markets, that these businesses like Replit and Cursor, and probably Lovable as well, they get these huge valuations really quickly because they're getting to 1 million users quicker than anyone else. And so you've got these founders that have had these businesses for 12 months and they're valued in the billions. And then it's really funny that you must just be sitting there nervously on the side, just waiting. Is Google going to come in and just slam dunk over my head, with just destroy my product? Or is OpenAI going to come in and just ChatGPT 5 me out of existence? But so it's just interesting watching these secondary markets, and who knows, there might be a founder that gets in and out in 12 months and then slips on a yacht.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it. I don't know if it's public, but let's say these massive rounds like the Cursor round, have the founders taken anything off the table? I don't know. If you're putting in $500 billion at a $9 billion valuation or whatever they got, maybe it was 3, into Cursor after 4 years, are you going to let the founders just take $50 million off the table so they can do that? You're probably going to say, no, that. You have to stay in the business. You have to work on a small wage because I need to see you compete with the big boys.
But and as a founder, you're like, oh my God, I'll just go to the secondary market and get out somehow. I'll just it's like you said, the founder
take the
rolls
bag.
in the Lamborghini. And
Take the bag.
next
Take it
day
early.
and
Take it while it's available.
Look, if Google gets me, I've got the Lambo.
Yeah, got the Lambo. That's all I wanted. All I had to do was vibe code this business into existence. And
And speaking of OpenAI, what have they been up to? Because they're never going to, as we said last week, they love a response. So if they see a bit of noise, they always go, oh, why don't we just drop something this week and cut it out?
Yeah, it's similar vein to what we have been talking about already with this ecosystem. So Google creating the ability to just vibe code your apps, build them from scratch. Microsoft moving in. We've talked about the other companies that can do that. OpenAI getting in on the party. So they, number one, they released something called Codex, CLI. It's like a little agent that sits on your computer. It will help you do your coding. So regardless of where you're doing it, whether you're using Cursor or VS Code to do your programming, it will help you do that. Claude already has this. So, it's not a massive release, but they're moving into that space. Probably what I found the most interesting, we can talk about the model updates in a second, but literally this is only a few hours ago. OpenAI is in talks with a company called Cody, who has a product called Windsurf, which is a competitor to Cursor, we just talked about, to actually purchase them for, I think, again, it was a whopping $3 billion. So this is really heating up, and OpenAI is basically saying, we already are with ChatGPT, the leader in the consumer app. Just because their models are being caught up to doesn't mean that people are going to go to other apps instead of ChatGPT. Us nerds are paying for all of them and we're trying them out. And like you said, you having battles with 4 different AI apps while you're in Ubers and Waymos. I don't think everyone's doing that. Most people are going, okay, I want to use AI to help me do something, and ChatGPT is the go-to. OpenAI is going to lean into that and say, we've got the brand, we need to run faster than everyone else, we need to keep them in our ecosystem, and it looks like everyone's trying to build software just from scratch. Let's make a play here. So that would be their biggest acquisition so far. If they wanted to do it, they've obviously got the cash now after the monster round. So I thought that was really interesting in the OpenAI space.
The biggest, I suppose, weakness I've seen across all models to date, but the thing that was annoying me about ChatGPT the most was the memory side of it, and like I think other models had even less, and I actually don't understand. It might be I don't know if you've got the knowledge on why memory is so tight with these things and why it hasn't been better. But one of the biggest releases I saw, because I know, and you could maybe talk more to their updated model releases in terms of 4.1 or the mini ones. But the biggest thing for me has been this recent memory upgrade, and I didn't know about it until, that's why X is so good. And like we were talking about X's Moat last week. Sam Altman, I just follow him and I find out like what's going on, and then I have to upgrade. You update the app in the app store or whatever, and then so now it's remembering every conversation I've ever had with it, not just the top 10 points of our thing. And then now to me, it's like double its usefulness. I saw someone. I might have just done it myself, but I asked it like, now you know everything about me. Tell me my blind spots as a leader, and it was brutal. It was like, I don't need the June reviews feedback, the 360 feedback from my staff, because this thing just nailed me to a T.
You can tell it to be nice, Cody. That's the good thing about AI. You can say, deliver this to me like I'm a fragile man.
No, it was like it was like having an autistic therapist. It was just like, you want the facts? Here's the facts. But it was great because I also then told a few of my staff to do the same thing, and it's just like destigmatizing this feedback mechanism. Like, this thing's not lying to you; it knows you. You've had 100,000 conversations with you, so it was really good. So I think that memory upgrade is a huge unlock. And I agree with you. I think I saw that they had an extra like 200 million users or something, like almost like, so they've done this, which you wouldn't think. I already thought they'd done that, a long time ago, but they're They've got an enormous user base now. They are the choice. They are the retail choice of the average consumer. And you're right, they're leaning into that. And I think the product, they really care. I think Sam Altman really cares about product, probably a little bit more than Google, who are probably a bit more geeky. So, and we've sort of talked about celebrating that from them, but it's cool to have almost that Apple-like care about the product and experience that Sam obviously has.
Yeah. And you know where the 200 million users came from, right?
What's that?
It was the Ghibli memes. Everyone wanted to go in and make Ghibli style images of themselves. That's where 200 million just came out of the woodwork. By the service.
He also said something like, "I'm just so proud of the Indian people," or something. I'm like, proud? What does that even mean? It's like, oh, we've got 100 million sign-ups. Now we're proud. And then because I think a lot of the CEOs of these businesses are Indian background and stuff, which is really cool for us, because then we've got the cricket thing to go with them. So I keep seeing CEO of Perplexity, CEO of Google, they're heavy into the IPL and all that kind of stuff. And they're doing all these cricket based things. And the US people in the US will go, what are you talking about? What is this rubbish? Cricket memes in Ghibli style and all this sort of stuff.
Maybe that's where we can get our first sponsor, maybe one of the big Indian companies. But anyway, look on the memory side, I agree. It's a massive unlock, and you've got kind of these two concepts with LLMs. There's the memory, what it's actually remembering about either the conversation or what it knows across conversations. I don't know if you remember when they added the ability for within the conversation, it would stop and would say memory updated. It's like, cool, I'm going to keep that piece of information separate. And outside of that, you've got what you call the context window. And that's how much context it can keep sending back and forward. And typically what you'll find when the context window is smaller, it will start to drift. So if you have a long conversation, it starts to forget what the start of the conversation was. And it's not just about chatting and having that conversation. This is actually really impactful and meaningful when it comes to building software with AI, because it needs to know these things. If you've got an app that's always talking to AI, it needs to remember this stuff as well. And so talking about things like Cursor and Lovable, to be useful, what they need to do is not just know about one file that you're working on as a software developer. It needs to know about the whole code base. And so this is why all the software developers are getting all antsy and excited about some of these upgrades. It's because the context window has gotten so massive with some of these models. So Gemini had recently had the biggest one. It was like 1 million tokens or something. But with the announcements from OpenAI, 4.1 has now got that similar size. So they've got these massive context windows. It just means you can do more with the models. So talking about the announcements, we can run through them briefly. It's probably not super exciting, but GPT 4.1, that's the one with the massive context window. We've got O3 and O4 Mini, meant to be the really smart ones, helping you with coding, helping you with the reasoning. So that's going to replace a bunch of the models that exist. And the one that we've talked about, us keeping our subscriptions to expensive things because we get the carrot waved in front of us and we know that something's coming. Sam Altman said for pro users, which we are paying our $200 US a month, which we're probably idiots.
Which is now 3,000 Australian.
Yeah, and going up. We get O3 Pro before everyone else. So as soon as that drops, we need to make sure we use that like crazy, because everyone will just get it like a week later anyway, and our 3,000 Aussie is thrown out the window.
Yeah, our ChatGPT is like our wife's handbags. It's like, why are you paying 10 times? Yeah, you're like, you don't understand. We get access to O3 Pro a week before everyone else. It's like, babe, he's hooked into the mind. All right. Well, that's a good wrap of AI. Let's get into the robot rundown where the rubber meets the road in technology. What are we looking at this week in robots?
Yeah. Well, quick one from Tesla. We've seen that full self-driving FSD is been coming for a while. Elon isn't always the best at hitting his deadlines, but he has promised to us on X that we are going to have the ability for it to and arrive at our home, if we order one, fully autonomously, which is pretty cool to think that you can go online, you can buy a car, and that car will drive itself to your home. So apparently by the end of the year as well. So I thought that was, maybe we won't hit quite that, but it shows that we are at least getting closer to full self-driving with Teslas. We're getting close with Waymo. And we can talk about that too, but I thought that was one that really stood out to me.
If you just pause on that for a second, buying a car and having it drive itself to your home, that hasn't even been in a sci-fi movie yet. You know what I mean? Like that's like
no
there's
one's
so
predicted
many.
that yet.
There's so many tech things and big tech businesses now. I forget the guy that's doing all the US defense stuff. It's not Palantir. It's the other fellow who worked at on
Andrew.
Andrew. And he's like, they're like, where are you coming up with all these ideas? And he's like, oh, straight out of sci-fi. Like, that's basically, we watch old movies and we just make it real. Like, it's just but I just don't remember seeing a movie where you order a car and it drives itself to your house. Like, I just think
it's absurd.
Tesla is just so amazing. They're just like similar thing. I know, Elon's out there saying different things, but that is just an excellence factory of, oh, by the way, your car's now driving itself to your thing. Or by the way, we're doing autonomous and I know we were talking about Waymo last week. And it's like, well, who's going to partner with who here? And where are the deals going to flow? Because you've got the software part of it, you've got the hardware part of it, you've got existing audience bases. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, being in Austin, I didn't realize this, and we actually missed this news. They haven't publicized it that widely, but I realized that in the Uber app, you can order a Waymo. So Uber and Waymo have actually partnered. And so I went back. Apparently, this happened about a month ago. At the start of March, they just launched this in Austin. It's now in Atlanta as well. So what they're solving here is the distribution problem. You've got Waymo, they've got the tech now, and a lot of people are starting to hear about it, but you get this massive uplift in distribution. Everyone who's ordering an Uber can now switch it to Waymo. By everyone, I mean those in Austin and Atlanta, but this will, you can imagine, be rolled out across the US and hopefully across the globe. And it's just such a smart move because Uber is saying, well, we don't have the tech for self-driving, and Waymo's going, you guys have the network. And I don't know what the commercial arrangement is, but we were talking about who's going to partner with who on the last episode or whenever it was. Yep. And it's just so cool to see this happening.
Yeah, I think I heard 6 months ago that Uber CEO is saying, of course, we'd love to partner with Tesla. And that looks natural, but my gut feel is I know this isn't a done deal with Waymo. This is just a use in Austin and potentially some other city in the US. It's definitely not in Australia. But my gut feel is they get together almost out of a marriage out of convenience because Elon's going to go it solo. Because Tesla are going, because he was talking basically full self-driving on our own chips. So he's like, no NVIDIA required. Obviously, he didn't go LiDAR. He's gone computer vision. So their own AI, their own chips, their own cars, their own factories, their own energy. They're producing their own energy at the data centers. They're capturing more data on the road than anyone else on the planet. Every Tesla is basically just a data capture machine. So I think for Waymo and Uber to work when they release the autonomous car, which actually doesn't even have a steering wheel in it, I think that they're going to be that's the two big players. That's the Microsoft and Google. It's just a guess, but I feel like they have to team up, Uber and Waymo, to battle that. Yeah.
And you're so right. Elon doesn't want any fault in the system. He doesn't want to rely on anyone for basically anything. And obviously he's got some suppliers for things like raw materials, but he wants to vertically integrate the whole thing, and probably because he knows and has proven to do things better. He works his people harder. They do things to a different level. And yeah, it just does. You can't see him going and agreeing to partner with an Uber or with a Waymo. He just wants to do it all himself.
Yeah. So that's great. And I mean, once again, competition, good for all of us. Like, let's have them go head to head, bring down the price. Hopefully Australia lets them in. Please let them in.
It'll be free Waymo soon. How good would that be?
I mean, for me, on the robotic space, big week in drones for me. Gone deep drone. Out of, I think, Austin, Texas, there's a business called Zipline Deliveries that have set up drone stations that are dropping off parcels, sort of similar. I don't know if people have been thinking Amazon are looking into this space as well, but that last mile type logistics, they can drop off food, they can drop off anything you could order online, basically to a certain size. And this little drone flies into your house and it mapped to your house, and there's your delivery. That's some very cool tech. It's probably being done in China for a while.
China's doing it.
So the US getting involved in that space is really cool. And then, I mean, from a drone point of view, obviously there's a heap of different defense. Everyone seems to be, that's the new investment in defense, is it looks like drones. Like, you know, Chinese have shown some pretty prowess things there. I think the China got in a display the other day almost up to 10,000 drones working together. Scary thought. And then the US are obviously a little bit behind, but they're focusing their defense spending, I think, in that space now. But drones for me, have some excellent use cases in retail and then also in construction. So I think we spoke last week about the drone sort of cleaning the outside of the building, not requiring scaffold. In general, it's going to be a big part of my China trip, is just figuring out, and even DJI with cameras and film making movies and stuff, they've now got AI built into them so they can almost cinematography style capture the right moment automatically. It's like zooming in on the right thing and moving itself around to capture the scene the best. So, have you seen anything in the drone space, or have I diluted it all there?
No, I think you've covered it mostly. I again realize I'm in Austin at the moment, so maybe I'll try and get some things delivered by Zipline. That's what I'll be Googling after this. But you can, I think it's really cool for things like quick medical deliveries as well. Like, you're having a problem at home, you need to get a quick medical delivery, an EpiPen or something for an anaphylactic reaction. Imagine just having a drone come immediately rather than waiting for an ambulance to get to you through traffic. So some really cool use cases there. China is definitely doing this. That's been seen. And yeah, I think that the one thing that scares me, there's obviously the whole warfare thing. That's very scary. Imagine killer drones coming to get you. But less scary, but more of a consideration for just quality of life, is I don't know if I want heaps of drones just all flying around while, you're sort of sitting out in your backyard trying to enjoy it and this drone's coming over. So I think that's probably going to be one of those like social considerations that comes into this. Like, how often can they fly? Can they fly anywhere? It's a very cool concept of just having things delivered by drones all the time. But they're very noisy and kind of annoying. And I know my dad makes the joke that he wants to buy a gun just to shoot down the people's drones as he gets them, or like a drone capture gun because he hates them. So I think that there's going to be a lot of people like that. And that's probably one of the considerations with this tech. It's how it all plays out with the regulations.
Yeah, privacy across the spectrum is up for grabs here. Like, we were talking last week about, the wearables. If you see someone with it on, are we now recording this? Like, you and I know we're recording this pod, right? That's okay. We're both said that's okay. But I just think the more invasive technology is getting, and it's getting invasive. I mean, as we move towards almost a singularity, it's just more and more invasion, right, into the private space. And where does it stop? I think that's going to be, somewhere like Europe or here, we're going to, have the red tape. But I wonder if America will end up having this law where, like they did to protect all the social media companies, where anything can be said and nothing can be regulated. Whether the same applies to hardware. Like, how not used in court or something, but in general, it just seems technology, the biggest hold point is going to be, at what point do we say that's enough? Because it's invading privacy.
Yeah, and I think the cat's out of the bag. I don't think there's any stopping it. It's just going to happen now. And what I think is the most fascinating about this is, with the quality of AI, what things are going to be in place to prove that something actually happened? If something was captured on CCTV, how are we going to prove that that was real footage? Or is the defendant going to be able to get up and say, I didn't do that. That's AI generated. And there must be smart people working on this, but who knows? Maybe it's a good ad if you say something stupid on the pod, Scotty. You can just say that you didn't say that. It was the AI avatar that went rogue.
It's not 100% guaranteed to happen every week, but so from my point of view, we're almost leveraging that idea here at work. So as part of Elysium, the first section of Elysium is design. So it's AI based design. The second part is construction, using robotics or 3D printing and construction. And the third is, the ongoing maintenance or automation on the home. So the core vision is, fully autonomous homes. So, your kitchen should cook for you, the house should clean itself, and all those kind of things. Now, one of the barriers there is how many robots do you want basically recording everything in your home? Like, I like the idea of being able to talk to my walls, but then does everything you say at home want to be recorded on some server somewhere, right? But so there's that balance. But one of the things we're doing in the maintenance side, and we can retrofit this to other people's houses, is like the ultimate luxury is privacy, right? So you look at what's the ultimate, like you've just upgraded the points in Qantas, and for people like you and I, business class is the ultimate luxury, but the ultimate luxury for my clients is a private jet. The ultimate luxury for billionaires is a private island. And the last remaining souls in your privacy are your help, your pilot, your cook, the person who's cleaning. Now, those jobs, people are coming for them right now with automation and robots, right? So you're now gaining this privacy, but you've gone from having almost a servant into having a robot who's actually recording. A servant just had a memory and they might gossip, but a robot's recording. So part of our sell with what we're doing is, if you don't want 5 tradesmen in your house, like if you have a mansion here in Melbourne, in Toorak or something, if you don't want the gardener coming over, the pool cleaner, the gutter cleaner, the internal cleaners, the landscaper, the plumber, and then you're having to have all these meetings, let these people into your house, the humanoid robot is going to be starting to replace some of those. But if you're older and more senior, which is where the most of the wealth is, you maybe don't trust that robot. So from our point of view, we're seeing that as something to leverage, to say, well, how about if we come with a bunch of robots and we're in and out in 3 hours? So a human didn't actually enter your house. We have the robots. We bring them in. You're out shopping. We're in and out, and you come back and your house is like when in a hotel when they've redone your bed and they've cleaned everything up, and but now in this case it's your garden's been cut, curated, your pool's clean, your house is clean, the dishes are done, and everything's done, and that's like a 4-hour, 3-hour sweep in and out of your house. Yep. I think that's almost the middle ground we're going to target.
It's really fascinating. This whole idea of trust is probably the biggest issue when it comes to things like humanoid robots. I still can't get over the comment that you want to talk to your walls. It's really distracting me. But
I just don't want to hold something. I'm so sick of devices and typing. Just free me. I want to want free hands.
No, it's so good. But yeah, the trust thing, it's because it's like, do you trust what you know, which is like humans, but humans are not very trustworthy. We're proven to be gossips. Or do you trust the robots coming in? But there's also things like data leaks and things get hacked. So where is that going to land in people's minds? And I think that figuring that out is going to be really, really important for businesses like Elysium. And how do we get to that point? Like, it's the same thing with full self-driving. Technically, if all cars were autonomous on the road, they should be able to be on the same system, and that would be the safest thing ever, technically. But then you get these dystopian images of, well, what if it all just goes wrong? All of them decide to crash into each other at once. The potential for just complete catastrophe is, the risk is small, but the size of the risk could be really, the impact of the risk could be really bad. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing that any company is dealing with, is that trust. How much can we trust the technology, or how much are people going to want to actually lean on humans more because they don't trust the technology? And I don't think anyone has the answer to that. Yeah.
Look, the biggest hurdle I have for Elysium is the movie Ex Machina or Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen it, but
yep.
In that
Great
movie, yep, you can talk to the walls, and you do have a robot, and then the house and the robot turn on you, lock you in it, and kill you. So, don't know. I've ruined that for everyone. That's
Can I
one
say
of those things that you can't say on Reddit.
that should not be your business pitch.
No, it's like the problem is like when I'm telling people, like that movie, and then I go, oh wait, but apart from the ending, like all that, the first hour of that movie, that's what we're going for.
Just the trailer.
So yeah,
Just the trailer of that movie.
That's a real hurdle for me to get through. Mate, is there anything else from your point of view that you've come across this week?
Look, not for robots. I think that probably gives us the rundown pretty quickly. I guess unless you've got anything else to wrap up with, I just noticed a bit of a theme, and jumping back to AI in general and just technology this week that I thought was quite interesting, but also quite funny, is the amount of people that are going after consultants and attacking them. Like the amount of things I've seen on X around, I can't believe that someone's, is out there right now paying Accenture $500,000 to get their AI strategy when it could just be like built on O1, or there's actually people at consultants are getting targeted by tech companies saying, consulting is dying. Why don't you come and work on the future instead? So it was just a really interesting concept. And I know that we've talked about having, conversations with people like lawyers before around, are we still willing to pay the same amount when you can get like 95% of the advice from AI? Like, how is that going to change the relationship? And it was just an interesting theme that I think we've got playing out.
Yeah. Look, good. Cause I'm sick of them. I think, I don't know if I told you, I went into, one of the big four in, the global big four firms, and I sat down for 2 hours to hear out. This is in the previous business because we were big enough to sort of almost flirt with like, oh, well, what can you bring to the table? I came out none the wiser to what they actually do. None the wiser. There was a whiteboard. There was some stuff said, but there was nothing of value. And it's sort of like, yeah, if you can't go to the consultant agency and then, increase revenue and cut costs. Thank you. $400,000. What's your AI policy? Oh, get all your staff on ChatGPT. Thank you. $500,000. So, I think that's a good thing. I think people should be focusing on being creative and founding businesses and being a part of a big mission. Not, there is a place, I'm sure, for what they do. But from my point of view, you won't see us paying a big check to any consultants in any time soon.
Yeah, and like you mentioned at the start, it is the golden era for entrepreneurship, for starting, for building things. It is such an opportunity. I don't know how long it will last until everyone's just doing this and it becomes the norm. So I think part of the reason we started this podcast is we just wanted someone else to talk to about everything that's going on, what we're trying to do in our own businesses, because I think if you let this moment slip, it's probably not going to come back. It might be the biggest technological shift that we see in our lifetimes, and the pace that it's moving, it is just so exciting to be in the arena and to be building and to be staying up to date with all of the things that are going on.
Yeah, and you just follow your heroes in the space and listen to them direct on X. That's the best part. It's unfiltered. Yep. You get the CEO that goes bang, like the guy, like Brad Cockett-Figure and Sam Altman. We're getting the information direct. We don't need a consultant to digest it, distill it, and give it to us. You can listen to a podcast, for instance. But one of the things I wanted to end on, which is sort of everyone knows, well, not everyone knows, but for those who don't know, core mission here, is obviously, autonomous housing, which also will lead to housing affordability and availability in general. And, ground zero for the crux of this problem, is in LA, where I was a couple of weeks ago, and the devastation there and cleaning that up. And it is just a fact-based thing that the only way that can get repaired is by not importing 50,000 humans to do the necessary construction. So, but one of the things I remember when I was there, and it feeds back into Melbourne and our growth here and Australia's growth in communities and new suburbs, is what was really cool is the Lakers had gotten behind opening up a new public recreation centre and public garden space within the Pacific Palisades. And in Australia, that would almost, like, America is different to Australia. America, the government doesn't spend as much, and then private corporations almost have to step in and assist in that way. Because when I was there, I was thinking, great, if we can help fix building these houses quicker and getting people in homes, the reason that suburb was like everyone wanted to live in the Pacific Palisades is because of the character of the suburb. And that means the streetscapes, the trees, the gardens, the communal areas. And when people, talk about, new Australian suburbs as well. The one thing that seems to keep decreasing in size are the trees, the streetscapes, the public gardens, the public spaces, the recreation centres, the areas for kids to play, where you actually build a community. Like a suburb shouldn't just be an apartment tower scaled out horizontally. So I just think I thought it was good, that they're doing it over there, that they're considering it, because it's part of, like, I think that's what the actual government's role is. Instead of stopping you from building, the government should be spending on communal spaces. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of just going red tape, you can't do this, you can't do this. Go, why don't you focus on bins, cleaning up and providing some communal space for our kids to play. So I thought that was really interesting. Like I get to live in Middle Park in Melbourne, which is probably the most heritage intact suburb almost in the country. 90% of their homes are Victorian. The streets are wide. My kids have the pleasure of like 5 different playgrounds within 500 meters, which, I have to visit all of them on a weekend. But so a bit of that government red tape around heritage protection has worked. But that should be available to everyone. There should just be in all the new suburbs, the government should just say, you go build what you want to build with your private land. We're going to provide communal space that you can all get to use. And I think that's just the future. I just think as we're rolling out these 3D printed homes, this affordability is going to be fixed. We are coming into the golden age of architecture and construction. These homes don't need to be terrible and all look the same. Everyone can have their own flair, and you can customize your own home like you can customize a car. And the government's role needs to be and do what you want with your property, and we're going to focus on the things that everyone gets to enjoy.
Yeah,
so
focus on
anyway,
the
that was
important
my little
things.
rant there.
Focus on the important things like those communal spaces, leaving them, and then saying to the developers, okay, free rein to do that. Go do what you need to do. And I love the idea that you can rebuild a city that still has character, that is going to have custom homes. And if that's what robotics and AI is going to help unlock in a place like LA, that is awesome. Because the last thing we want to see is for that to look like Soviet Russia when it gets built and everything just looks the same. Like we want to have that same character that it once had. And like you said, 50,000 workers being imported there is not going to be the solution.
Yeah, and then just to finish on it, one of my favorite architects in the world, Broderick Illy from BE Architecture. I think we've built 12 homes together. Whenever I ask him a question about why he did something, the first question he says is, what's the best thing to do? And what's the right thing to do? And I think the cost of labor has said they're almost like dreamlike states in most cases because we can't afford it. And I think the main reset for the government and for people and for housing and for architecture and construction, we can ask ourselves those questions again. What's the best thing to do? What's the right thing to do? Let's do it. And then that's the core vision of then you go use technology, harness technology to deliver on that ambition.
I love that. I think that's a good place to end. It's been a pleasure, Scotty.
Well, enjoy Austin. Get a zipline delivery, and
I've got a Shiner Bock Texas beer being delivered by Zipline right now.
Awesome, mate. And hey, don't go too hard on the Wine Snob app, because that's my social moat. So I rely on being the wine guy at the table. The last thing I need is someone to come over the top of me.
Mate, the bogans are coming for you. They're going to be speaking about wine. They're going to know all the notes.
I'm going to take out a patent. I'm taking out a patent. I'm going to sue.
No, not according to Jack Dorsey.
Awesome, mate. Enjoy.
See you, mate. Bye.